Hi, I'm Sandra Parker. I talk a lot about vulnerability, and it's because vulnerability is at the core of what it means to be human. And I'd like to share some of these ideas with you and invite you in to your own experience of being vulnerable and being human. I do want to talk about vulnerability. I talk about vulnerability a lot, and it's because I believe vulnerability is the most human experience that we have. All organisms, all sentient organisms are vulnerable. Everything that lives is vulnerable. If by vulnerable we mean bad things can happen, right? That's just a fact of being alive. Humans have this very special thing. We have these frontal lobes. We have this thin layer of neocortical material at the front of our brains. And in that amazing little few millimeters, we have a mirror for ourselves. We have a part of ourselves looking back at ourselves. We have a part of ourselves that can reflect us back to ourselves and let us know what it means to be us. And so not only is it a fact that we're vulnerable, but we have the ability, unlike a dog or a cat or a lizard, to know that we're vulnerable, to actually know that there's a gap between what I long for and what I can guarantee that I can have, right? Between my yearnings and my desires and what I want and what I can make happen, okay? And the gap between that reach and that control, that gap between those two places is incredibly uncomfortable. It's in the space between I want, and I can make it happen, that we live most of our lives. That the important things about being human really reside in that area, you know? Forces of nature, other people, my own body, you know, aging, dying, illness, death, your approval and love and, you know, other people seeing us in particular ways. We don't actually ultimately control those things. We can have an influence on them. We can make choices that may tip the scales in one way or another, but to actually control any of those things, my goodness, we do not have control. And in fact, the body has a very natural gesture that it makes when we are up against and in touch with that feeling. And we go like this, you know. It's, you know, I watch for that in sessions with clients all the time. I watch for, you know, that just involuntary gesture when someone's saying, you know, I wish I loved him, you know, but he feels like he's my brother, you know. I wish I didn't love her, and, you know, that's really a problem, right? But the body just kind of does this, right? I wish I could make them understand me, you know. I wish that, you know, I didn't have this diagnosis that I have to struggle with right now, and I wish that, you know, I wish that I didn't feel what I feel or live this way that I live. Little tiny little gesture. Sometimes it's just the thumb going like this. Sometimes it's just a little bit in the shoulder, right? The body's talking to us. The body is so wise, and it's saying, there you are. You're up against vulnerability. You're up against a limitation. You're up against a place where you want and you can't make it happen. You're in the place of I can't. Ooh, it's a tender place. Ooh, it's very uncomfortable. And we can either choose to approach ourselves there with tenderness and warmth and vulnerable love and interest, or we can turn away from ourselves there. We can deny that we're vulnerable. We can try and suppress the experience of that, distract, get busy, do all sorts of things, and move away from the truth of what is going on for us. And in that choice lies everything. The Buddhists talk about we can love or we can fear. It's the one choice we have. I can love myself there in my vulnerability, or I can fear myself there. And that one choice is the foundation stone for my whole life. Talk about choosing. That choice we get to make over and over again. It's a very generous universe. It's a very forgiving universe. So if I chose fear last minute, I can choose love this minute. So it is a lovely truth that even if I have denied myself for a long time, I can turn this around. I can turn it around in a breath. but I have to know how. And that's where signal anxiety comes in, okay? Because I'm getting information from my body in little sensations that are saying to me, oh, there's a vulnerable moment, Sandra. You can tune in or you can tune out. And I get invited back to the body, invited back to another chance, another opportunity to grow again and again and again and again. Right? As long as I have breath in my body, I've got another chance to choose. Isn't that generous? It feels very generous to me. So even if I've chosen and chosen and chosen to numb out, shut it down, deny that it matters, just disappear into Miller time or, a pint of Ben and Jerry's, however I leave, right? Whatever I've done to defend against that feeling, I can choose something different. But I do need to know how. And signal anxiety is the way in. It's a signal from our body, a signal from our soul saying, here, here, here in this moment, here in this breath, here in this body, you have a chance to grow. And so that's why it's so important to start tuning into your unique signal. What happens in your body when you're being called to growth? What does it actually feel like? If you can get familiar with that and then grow your ability to tolerate it, which is uncomfortable, and then grow your ability to stay with it with warmth and interest and non-judgment, in that precise holding of yourself as you're having the vulnerability, having and holding and having and holding and having and holding, you have every opportunity to emerge as all that you're meant to be.